Okay, hello, and welcome to the Plans Change podcast. I'm K-May, and this is my guest, Haley Ray. And Haley, you are actually the first person I'm recording for this podcast. I don't know where you'll go in the lineup of the season, but I get to guinea pig how to format the show on you. This is going to be really hard because Haley is one of my best friends. She is in my wedding. She is the girl that I'm silly goofy with, but also the girl that I scream and cry with. But that's kind of the point of this podcast, is vulnerability and honesty. So hopefully we don't go on 5 billion giggle tangents or 5 billion cry fests, and Haley gets to share her story, but neither of us make any promises. So I have a regular opening question. Oh, where did we both go? There we are. Sorry. That I planned on asking people. But then Haley has a get to know you question. She has requested I ask, and I don't know if I'll ask everyone, but specifically her. But my question one is, what book and or show are you currently reading this week? You can share a book and a show, or just a show, whatever you're up to. But I know you're a Kindle girly, so this could go either way.
I know, but I stopped reading like a few weeks ago, and I just haven't picked up another book. I'm in one of those ruts.
Sometimes you need a little palate cleanse so you can stay in love with reading, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But I started The Rookie. It's on Hulu.
Ooh, I have seen season 1 of that, I think. I don't know if I've watched anything past that. But I watched it because Nathan Fillion, who used to play Richard Castle on Castle, and he was the voice of the Green Lantern in the Green Lantern animated, is who plays the main guy on The Rookie. I'm saying...
I don't know what that was.
Okay, and then Haley's guest opening question she wants me to ask is, what's your favorite conspiracy theory and why?
Okay, mine is, I don't think that Helen Keller wasn't real because there's pictures of her. But I don't think she was doing everything that everybody said she was doing.
Yeah, you think they more made her like a figurehead for Americans of different abilities, and that like it's not that people with adaptations or with disabilities can't do X, Y, and Z. It's how did one woman do all of those things in her lifetime?
Yes.
Is that more your point?
I think maybe she, did some of these things. I don't think she piloted a plane.
You said that at one point, and I pulled up an article because I knew you would use that example in this episode. And it says that she was a passenger on an extended flight at one point. And then her travel companion and interpreter, Polly Thompson, translated her speech to other, interpreted for her, and then she would speak to Keller by pressing symbols into her hand. And they were traveling to Europe. And so her and Thompson, in partnership, from my understanding, piloted the plane.
That just
via their unique communication tactics.
I think that just proves my point that they exaggerate everything that she did, because most of them will say, Helen Keller flew a plane.
Yeah. I choose to see it as teamwork makes the dream work, because I, as a fully able to, well, I shouldn't say fully. I'm actually struggling without my glasses. But as somebody who can hear, unless there's water in my ears from my occupation, and can see, there are a lot of things I couldn't do without somebody to hold my hand. So I'm just going to be honest saying that's a humanity thing. But yeah, that was a great opening question, Haley. And you have given our viewers and listeners at home so much to think about.
Think about it. Do some research.
Okay, so Haley Ray, you
tell me where you stand.
Let us know in the comments. I don't even know if we'll have a comment section on any platform this will be out of, but let us know in the comments. Haley, for being a hometown girl who has stayed true to her hometown, chose to set down roots there. You have your own home there now. You have actually gone through a ton of change in your life for somebody who is kind of living like a Hallmark character. This is my home, and I like it. And I say that in the most loving way. But you are. You're the cute girl from high school that the man moves away to the big city, and when he comes back in 20 years, he's like, oh my gosh, she's still hot. You're the Hallmark girl.
I don't think any man's moving to the big city and coming back and being like, wow, she stayed for me.
Maybe that's for the best.
Track record.
Anyways, you have gone through quite a few different pivots in your life. And so I guess one way that I would like to open this up is for some people, they have one major life change. For other people, they have a lot. So Haley, you can kind of choose what was a pivotal moment and the changes that came from that and how you grew from it. Or would you like to talk us through a timeline of changes? That's kind of up to you. Maybe I should start sending this particular question to people before the podcast.
Just something that changed me?
Well, it's called plans change. So what's a moment that something happened in your life and it changed the trajectory, changed the game plan? I know a shared one for us was Haley and I became friends. Oh, speaking of plans changing, the first summer Haley and I knew each other, we could not stand each other.
I did not.
I moved away from Haley's hometown. I moved away from Haley's hometown for 2 years, came back, and we pretty immediately became best friends because we were neighbors. It was like the first summer.
Our trash.
The first summer, we were like, granted, we had a pretty, for the season of life we were in then, it was pretty significant age gap. Haley was still in high school. She was an upperclassman in high school. I was an upperclassman in college. I moved back. We were obviously both adults and living on our own. And so the age gap didn't matter as much because we were in a more similar stage of life. So that probably helped quite a bit. But yeah, Haley and I went from a high school kid and a college kid who couldn't stand each other to the two crotchety neighbors that sat in their backyard and watched everybody else be dumb and kind of, we were those neighborhood ladies. We can pretend we weren't. We were those neighborhood moms, and we didn't even have children.
I am still that neighborhood gal. Something's happening outside. I'm like, what's going on?
Well, and your new house has the perfect little sun porch to... What you doing?
Oh, dang. I have to go outside and water my plants that I don't have. Dang it. Not kidding. One day I just took my broom outside to sweep off the sidewalk. Gotta know what's going on.
Sometimes you do. And then I was going to say another big plans change moment would be when I came back, Haley and I were working at the same place again that we had met summer one. Both decided our careers, decided we were both going to settle in Haley's hometown, had this whole big game plan. We get a year into those chosen careers and we get a phone call that the company we worked for was exiting the facility we worked for. And if we wanted to stay with them, we had to move. If we wanted to stay in Iowa, we had to throw up our hands and hope for the best. And though Haley stayed in town, she did not stay within that business, even within that industry. And I moved back to one of my hometowns so I could stay in my industry. So that was a huge pivot moment. And I think that's kind of one of the moments that this podcast was born from, because that's when I truly learned, like, plans changing can bring joy and grief. Like, I've loved the kids I've gotten to work with and teach up here, but like I had this whole plan that I'd found. I know I had my Hallmark moment in the reverse. I ended up moving to this small town for a job, and I fell in love with this town, and I fell in love with a lot of people. And, I established myself as part of a community for the first time, other than one I was from or only becoming friends with work people when I had moved before. Like I truly got to know a town. And so for that, the joy of finding it, but the grief of having to leave it, but then the joy of finding something new, but the grief of knowing I was never going back. So.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of just pulled the plug without any notice that our bosses were no longer going to be our bosses.
Yeah, we pretty much got told, you got one summer left, figure it out.
Yeah. And that summer, I mean, I had big life things happening.
Yeah.
I fell
in. Go into that if you want that to be your plans change moment.
Maybe we'll get to that later. I feel like we are only 10 minutes in.
You have point. She has point.
But I mean, my last summer there, I loved my crew that I worked with.
Yes.
Like all of them. And if I could
a great team,
open a restaurant and pay them trillions of dollars to come and work for me again, just so that they, like, probably not trillions, but, you know, like a livable wage.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I would literally get on my hands and knees and beg them to.
Yeah.
Because those were my people. My team flowed so well. There wasn't any drama. And out of the 5 years that I was there before that, and I wasn't the boss of my own team, there was so much drama happening. And then we hit the head on the nail, and I mean, some girls were like, I don't think I'm going to like them because we're not in the same social group. They were wrong. They still hang out now. So
I was about to say, you that summer took 4 very different teenage girls. And now 2 of them are in like a long-term relationship. They're out of high school now and are still together and are like doing life together. And all 4 of them are really close friends. And so, but I remember you saying that. You were like, my whole team just came to me and they're convinced they're all going to hate each other. And I was like, oh. And then we got maybe a month into that season at work. And
they were all best friends. Like, the boys were jocks and they were, I don't even know what class they put themselves in, but they were like, they were
alternative, I would say.
And then they all ate gross fries off of a table. Don't ever do that. That is such a health violation. I had a very long talk about that, about how we don't eat fries that you're cleaning off a table.
Oh, you don't mean like
hepatitis.
A brand new order of fries got spilt on the staff table. You mean they ate fries off of... Oh gosh, I don't... The fact that I'm still the boss of teenagers.
That was our opening week, and I said, okay, let me explain germs.
Is it being the boss of teenagers fun? I always joke that, like, you are spare parent, guidance counselor, coach, older sibling, and their actual boss all wrapped into one. Because when you're the boss of teenagers...
you have to add, like, a friend in there.
Yeah.
Because they're not afraid to tell you anything.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Why does being a boss within 5 to 10 years of your staff's age make them think that, like, you're an authority figure, but also they need to have no boundaries? And I'm like...
So true. Like, some of the stuff that they told me, I could not even, like, go to my boss now and be like, yo, I did this as a joke.
Oh my gosh. No, I still have lifeguards walking and they're like, Kaylee, guess what happened on campus last night? Like, my college kids or like some of my upper high school kids. And I'm like, don't tell me. And they're like, no, because I need advice. And I'm like, well, how do I look at this child who's safely coming to an adult that they know to troubleshoot something they went through and say, no, but on the same, like, because I'm so proud of them for seeking out somebody. And I know they aren't going to go home and talk to mom and dad about it.
That's true.
So, like, it's always that weird blend of when do I say, no, you're really giving me the heebie-jeebies telling me about this, and I'm so proud of you for coming to an adult in your life. Like, where's the cutoff?
But then there's me, and I'm like, I think I'm a little too young for that life advice, actually.
I'm like, am I even equipped for this? Do I even know what to do? Yeah, I'm going to circle back to what you said a little bit ago. I honestly felt like that summer was one of the strongest summers we had out there. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, the whole pivot life change thing kind of sucked. It was like, wow, we finally do have the right team through the door. If the team we have now had been in place 5 years ago, which would have been about our first summer there, they never would have dropped us. But yeah. But the new blood that came in working with the original managers that actually did know what they were doing so we could bounce off each other, that weird blend of the old house and the new house, we really caught our traction that summer. And I think that was another thing that I was like, well, damn.
There was a lot of flow. Everything just flowed. And even through the chaos, it just flowed. And, like, yeah, I stressed myself out. And, I mean, I would say, like, 50 of that was work life. The other half was personal life. And probably, I hope my kids aren't going to jail this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Felt that. That was one interesting thing about being a boss there. Please let none of my staff get arrested this weekend was a regular thought. I think the other thing that sucked about that. I think the other thing that sucked about that was, like, some of us grown-ups were a little mean to each other that summer, but looking back at it now, 2 years out, we were all throwing temper tantrums. We all loved each other, and we knew everything was about to end, and we hated it. So we just kind of picked, a lot of us did, at each other, instead of us all just sitting down and saying, I think we're all scared and sad that change is coming. And that's one thing I wish a lot of us had realized in the moment when it comes to when change isn't immediate, when change is upcoming, the feelings get to build up. And that is one thing that if I'm ever put in that position again, where change is something we're building up to, unexpected change, I should say, because we're always building up to change. But when unexpected change, we're given a timeline. That's a better way to say it. We're given a timeline for when change will happen versus it being immediate. I'm going to do a better job of taking a deep breath, checking my own emotions, and being like, I can, because it's the same thing. Like when people are mourning someone they've lost, one of the stages is anger. And there's confusion and there's everything else. And I think we were all mourning these beautiful workplace lives, but also personal lives we had built with one another.
And I think that, like, my summer, I mean, it wasn't that bad. But, like, I mean, it was a great summer. But, like, the change that was coming wasn't really, like, it was talked about. Not in detail, though. And I'm a very, if you say we're leaving the house at 1 o'clock and it's 1:02, we are not leaving the house at 1, and now I'm stressed. And so because I wasn't getting any details, and anytime I asked questions, the answer was, well, we don't know. I'm not sure. And whatever, like, my summer still went smoothly. And then, I mean, we still got to the ends, and I was like, okay, we talked about, like, getting, like, moving straight into the transition and maybe me still having a job. And now I'm packing up things, and you're telling me you're going to pay my PTO out. That doesn't sound like we're transitioning.
Yep. That's very true.
Building up to, we are going to transition. It's going to be great. It's going to work out. Everything's going to be good. Like, you'll still have a job. You're going to stay open during the winter, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, great. This means I don't have to find a winter job. I want to do this. I love what I'm doing. I love even my angry customers. I loved them too. Like,
and then all of a sudden we were a month from the current company we were under's final close date. And they said, hey, we haven't actually selected somebody to take over this property and be the new contract. Everybody needs to look for winter work. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh. And what's crazy is I had almost left halfway through that summer, made the decision with my partner not to. And then I'm sitting there.
Girl,
and I remember you looked at me and you were like, maybe you should have moved. And I was like,
well, and then like the uncertainty of what was happening with the change is what got me, of like not knowing. And then even though they were making all these promises, whatever, and then they're like, nope, not going to happen, but the state is going to come in and talk to you about it. And I was like, great, people that know things. What did they know? I'm not sure.
So to give a little clarification to our listeners at home, Haley and I did work for a corporation, but we worked for a corporation that partnered with national and various state governments to run facilities within state and national parks. And then other different public land areas, things like that. They did a lot more than that, but we were in the division that partnered with public land lodging facilities and tourism facilities and things like that. And so that's why the state was involved in a company leaving our workplace. It wasn't like a major scandal. We just happened to work for a state partner. I felt the need to clarify that. There was no big scandal. That's not why the state was coming into our workplace. We happened to work for a state partner. But yeah, so.
But I mean, yeah, that was all crazy. And so then I had that point it was just stress, and I was putting in so many hours of, okay, one, you have to repair this place to be shut down for months again. What all goes in, because you haven't done that in a year. And I was putting in so many hours that I didn't have time to start looking for another job. And I was like, well, that's fine. I guess we're just gonna wait till the day after I'm done with all this craziness.
Well, and the other thing that was hard on you was your role is a role that was initially supposed to be split between 3 people. One of them had a personal life change and had to leave pretty early in the season. So it was down to the 2 of you. And then towards the end of the season, your other cohort then also had something in her personal life. And I'm not saying either of these women made the wrong decision. You have to choose your house before you choose your job. And I 100% get that. But she had some things that was kind of taking her in and out. So for a lot of this, what was supposed to be a 3-person experience was all Haley Ray.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine because it worked out in the end. But, oh, that's funny. Just so everybody knows, I still get emails from this company that we used to work for, and they just emailed me.
Did you just get the pop-up too? I just saw it out of the corner of my eye on my Gmail. But also I like how we're both just saying this company, because I have this fear that we signed an NDA at some point about the change, and I just don't remember it. So I love that we both just said
lawsuit, broke girl.
I don't. And I mean, I do read over documents before I sign them, but there's this fear in the back of my head that I could get in trouble. But you said something a little bit ago. So we talk about symptoms of change on this podcast, and sometimes the secondary feelings other than when people think of change, they think of absolute joy, yay, a baby's here, or they think of absolute devastation. Oh my gosh, somebody's dead. I lost my job, off the bat, and there's no other work, things like that. And sometimes those feelings happen with change. But sometimes there's all these little feelings in between that we never really recognize. We never talk to our friends about because we're just like, yeah, change happened. I'm fine. But you,
And really, I was full of anxious.
yes. And so like the symptoms of change, like anxiety and just unknowns, like so also just coming down to you don't know how you're feeling some days. Like some days you're like, I'm so excited that this is going to open me up for a new opportunity. And screaming, crying, throwing up.
Yeah, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I'm from a town of like 700 people. And some of you are like, oh, that seems like a lot of people. I don't think you get how widespread this town is.
I think people from like BB Town, Iowa, population 99 would probably be like, your town's so big, but I don't think anybody else is going to say 700 is big. As a girl from not one, but 2 cities, moving to your town was culture shock. Because the first time I moved to your town, they weren't even big enough for their own Dollar General yet. And I was like, what do you mean we have to drive 25 minutes just for groceries? My little has never lived more than 12 minutes from a Target but was like, huh? But then there are other people that would consider like Council Bluffs a small town. And then I had also moved before I came back and was in Columbus. And people in Columbus were like, oh my gosh, Des Moines is only like 60,000 people. But then you come visit me up here and you're like, there's so many cars. Ah!
Hey, now, I actually don't do bad driving in the city.
You don't now.
Not now. Now, I'm just an aggressive driver. And if you're in my way, T-bone me. Because that's just what it's going to be.
Yep. You're like, we better both have insurance.
But no, I mean, going back to what we were talking about,
yes.
But one of the things with that change is that I am from a very small town. That, like, what I was doing, there's nothing here that A, is going to pay that good. I was rolling in the money. B, yeah, the restaurants here are family owned.
And your family doesn't own one of them.
They don't. It might come as a shock. But no, we don't, my family doesn't own one. So my only possibility of finding one that wasn't family owned was to, like, one, drive like 45 minutes to work every day. And some of you are like, oh, that's not that bad. The road I had to drive on, treacherous in the winter.
Yeah, we live in the middle of the Midwest, and Haley drives a sedan.
With no heat.
Your heat's out?
Girl, it has been for like 2 years.
You still haven't gotten it fixed from when it first went out? Okay.
They don't know what's wrong with it.
I support you in your choices. Bob will figure it out when he figures it out.
But, like, and that was to, like, work at Applebee's. I don't think the bees is for me.
Yeah, when you went from, like, a custom restaurant specific to the part of the world you were in a beautiful location, helping people have, you know, this unique travel experience. And then your choice is become only a server because management is taken up by family, or go run a dime a dozen restaurant. That's a really hard jump.
Yeah. And then there was the hope of, oh, I could get it back. But then you go into your interview and it's like, really? We just don't know what we're doing, actually? We don't know how to run this machine. We don't know how to run this machine. Tickets aren't printing. Can you fix that? Like, you just.
So then you feel like you're more there for them to troubleshoot than you are to go in and do your job. It was you called me after that interview and you're like, what did you say? Because it was really good. You're like,
I think I said I just felt like a Band-Aid.
Yeah, you did. You were like, I feel like a Band-Aid on the problems they're currently having. And you said something else and you're like, I feel like they more wanted a guidebook to their restaurant than somebody to come in and run it, I think is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard when something was your pride, your joy, your life, and your baby, and now instead of being asked how you can come in with full passion and do things, it's actually what Band-Aids can you supply us? That sucks.
Yeah. And so it was just a big Band-Aid, yeah. And so then it turned out I wasn't getting to go back to do what I wanted and what I liked. And then it got back to my employer that I had gone on this interview. And then
your new employer, to clarify, she did go somewhere over the winter. She was with them, had a chance to go back.
Yeah, now I work in like substance use, mental health, med management. And then there was the whole like, oh, you're leaving us? You're going back? And I'm like, no. That's an I don't know, because I have since then had 2 different interviews out there. One, an official interview done at the bar. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. But that place, I mean, towards the end was so mentally draining. Because, I mean, the unknown. I'm not good with the unknown.
And every time plans change, that's an unknown. And so now you're looking at, yeah, you're going back, but it means changing your whole life again. When everything closed, you had to change your whole life, learn a whole new industry. Like you just said, you're in like med health and substance abuse health and things like that now, which is completely different from working in the servers industry. To going back would also mean major life change all over again. So like,
and the
is saying yes to change again worth it?
I do have to go get a phone charger.
Okay, me too. Quick charger.
I'm not prepared.
For those of you listening at home, I could sing you a song right now, but nobody wants to hear that. So I'm going to tell you my terrific trick-or-treat joke from when I was little. So, how many witches does it take to change a light bulb? I don't know, Kaylee. How many witches does it take? 1, but she changes it into a toad. Ha 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 ha. And then old people would give me candy. It was amazing. We love the second grade.
I love the fake laughing on your end.
Thank you. I thought that was really good. I also plugged in while you were gone, just to be safe. Felt like that was a good idea.
Oh, hold on.
So there's a chance you were changing again, but to go back. And then it sounds like, have you made a decision yet?
I mean, I'd love to go back there. That's what I love to do. From what I have witnessed firsthand and what I have been told, it just doesn't seem like a very welcoming environment for someone who has already worked there.
They want fresh blood and fresh blood only.
And I get that. And I get that I was there for 5 years, if I can math right. But in those 5 years, I learned a lot. I went into that job as a 16-year-old who was shy. I don't even, was I 16? Hold on. Like 15, 16. And I was shy, kind of, unless I knew you. and my job was a host, so I had to learn how to talk to people. And the first year I was there, lovely lady told me I had to tap dance for the customers. And I got really scared. Because she told me this on my first day.
I'm 90% sure I know who told you this, and we're like best friends with her daughter now, so that's very funny if who I think told you that told you that. It wasn't?
What letter was that?
A J. We'll talk about it off camera. Anyways.
I don't think it was them.
Okay, so tap dancing.
But so like that job, I grew a lot. And I learned a lot from the 8. Yes, 8. Terrible. Okay, it's not all of them were terrible. But questionable bosses that I had throughout those, well, like 4 years. And then 5th year,
you were the boss.
New boss. And I mean, he wasn't my new boss because he was already there. Like, new to
we
me
restructured boss. In the final year, on top of all the other changes happening, there was a restructuring, and so Haley was reporting to somebody she knew but was new to reporting to.
Yes, and I mean, fell in love with my job, and then kaplat.
Yes. So we really, really touched on the change there, the job change, and what was happening. You have alluded to the fact that you had some personal stuff and change going on at the same time. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to focus on the personal and professional changes? So starting at the start of that season, we moved, first of all. We had been living on site, so if our employees ever needed us, our bosses ever needed us, all we had to do was go down the hill. And then we both moved into town.
And by that, we mean, like, literally down the hill.
Yep.
Not even 2-minute drive. I wouldn't even
not even 2-minute drive, exactly a 7-minute walk. And literally you could coast down it on a bike faster than you could go in a car.
Yeah. So I went from living out there to moving in town with my fiance. Wow. She was engaged.
Oh, and Haley, do we still have a fiance?
I do not.
And it's not because he became a husband.
No, it's not. So I moved into town. And I rent this place that I'm in. Cute sign. I know, because I bought it at Hobby Lobby.
It's beautiful.
And I love living in a house. I love living in a home. I lived in a house, just wasn't quite a home.
Yeah.
And then I moved into town. Everything was going great until... So the big change happened at that company that we worked for in October, beginning of November. Then January, like the first week of it, of the next year of 2023, I no longer had a fiance because... Yeah, we ain't sugarcoating it. He cheated and killed my dog.
Yeah. I would like to clarify for the viewers at home. I'm not laughing at what happened, Haley. I'm laughing because I was there and lived it with her and still can't quite comprehend that all happened. What's crazy to me is this man wasn't only your fiance, but worked at the same job with us, worked for me, lived with you. And I'm not going to say he was the perfect person, but the way he spoke about Haley, the way he had pursued Haley in the beginning, XYZ, the relationship ending because of those two things, I think a lot of us didn't see coming.
But that happened, and I mean, I found out he was cheating. I didn't go full psycho fiance. I only went like a quarter of the way there.
I really tried to convince you to carry Underwood, and you just wouldn't.
I know.
Very mature. I'm proud of you.
I don't know if that's mature or wasn't
You were
sure
in shock.
what was happening in the real world.
Yeah. I think you're definitely in shock about that.
I found out that he was cheating because I did go through his phone. I know. It's a relationship no-no, but I had a good reason. And that was because he fell asleep on the couch and I went to set his alarm so he would get up and go to work. And it was open to Instagram messages. And my little brain seen that and said, oh, we're going to ignore this for now. Tomorrow we'll recap on it. And I recapped on it and I said, didn't seem right. And so then I went through it and I found a lot of things that weren't right.
Yeah. Behavior of somebody who is not pursuing their future spouse, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, after I came to that realization that this was happening, I don't even know if I realized it. I guess I wasn't realizing it. I was in full blown, oh my God, this is me. This is my life. Am I not? Can I read a book? Is this? People would love this one. But I mean, things started to click on how and when things kind of changed in our relationship. And because I wasn't sure of all of my feelings, I didn't go to him right away, which all of my friends were very mad about.
I do remember that you told me before you confronted him. And I don't really remember ever being mad. But one thing I do remember is that I owned not one, but two blue SUVs, and neither of them were working at the time. And this was the dead of winter. So it's a very good thing we lived in like a 1 square mile town, because my happy butt put on just about every article of winter clothing I had, but for some reason didn't have gloves, stuck my hands in my pockets, and I literally ran across town to your house.
And so after I came to after I went through his phone and I came to everything, I panic attacked for a day and a half. They don't go away when you're sleeping, just so you know. You wake up and you're still having it. And I confronted him, and he tried to come up with excuses of why. It just didn't work out like that. And it wasn't, I feel like most people are like, oh, you guys broke up and you guys, you walked in the house and you were like, are you kidding me? You cheated? And, moved on. You kicked him out. He was gone in a day. Whatever. I mean, we lived together, so he had a lot of things. It wasn't just like a girlfriend, boyfriend, and high school breakup kind of thing. Our conversation of when we did end things was an hour long.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not sure that was good for me.
But
about it.
On the flip, Haley, I think you should give yourself some grace, because as you've already noted, you went through a huge life change in the beginning of November. And then in December, during your 21st birthday weekend, lost your dog, who is only 2.5. You didn't know how you had lost her yet. You didn't know he had been a part of that. But so like you had major life change. You were now grieving the loss of the first pet you ever got yourself, got in as an adult, chose like your first pet you chose for you. And then now you're at the beginning of January after losing your dog in December. You're at the very beginning of January, and you're looking at not only losing a relationship, but calling off of an engagement and living in your home alone. And you had more than just the relationship to grieve. You were already grieving the loss of your job that you loved, the loss of your dog. And now you were looking at coming home to an empty house, grieving the relationship you should have had. Like you already had so much grief going on. And then you were looking at either ignoring a very hurtful thing that had happened, especially because, and if you don't like me sharing this, we'll cut this in editing, but he had an emotional affair, not in a physical affair, which in my opinion hurts 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like,
so now you're looking at grieving your entire life and the whole thing changing in a 3-month span. I don't think anybody can really fault you for the fact that you took your time exiting that relationship, because you were looking at literally within 3 months flipping your whole life over.
And I mean, I don't know if you ever physically cheated. I can think of times where it would have been very easy to do that, because as of where I was putting in a crap ton of hours at every job that I've ever worked, to then getting on a job that was short-staffed and then immediately putting in overtime my first few weeks because they were short-staffed. And I mean, which is fine by me. Like, I'm in love with money. That is my true love. Just to clarify that for anybody. I'm on the Tinder, and I do tell my Tindermen that.
You know what? You're honest and upfront. No one's ever going to fault you for being honest and upfront.
And I can gladly say that I will not be with a man because he has money.
Because you're out here making your own.
We should cut that out right there.
Yeah. I will edit that part out. The whole Tinder section, or just what you just said?
No, just what I just said about not being with him because his money. And while we're at it, I'm going to hit this so you can cut this out too in one hit.
Good to know.
Okay, but I mean, I went from that to thinking I knew what I wanted in my life and being like, we're going to be married, and like, I will soon be married, and I will soon be having children, and I will soon be like building a life that I had dreamed of. And like in my head, like, we're engaged, we're getting married, children.
More dogs.
Yeah, more dogs. Love dogs. Like buying a house, like that was all in the plan. And like, I really wanted to be like married and established and have money and then bring children along. And I know that like my outlook on that like wasn't realistic, because like I wanted millions of dollars, and I still want millions of dollars. Just,
well, maybe you'll get famous after this episode.
You're 28, Haley.
Maybe you'll get famous from this podcast episode. The world will fall in love with you, and
but no. So he left. He got his things. My parents in this time were very supportive. My dad wanted to kill him, beat him up. He's like, I knew he was never good enough for you. I'm like,
I'm with Papa Snow on this one.
my mom was like, I just didn't trust him, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. My parents were very supportive. I'd only been at my job since November, so I was still on probation at the time, like probation.
You couldn't even take any time off to like grieve everything that had just happened to you in the last 3 months. Your choice was to wake up every day and go, or start the job search process again, which you also didn't have the capacity for.
Yeah. So I continued pushing through work, and like for a few weekends I felt my feels, and like I didn't do anything. I just chilled here in my then empty house because I didn't have a fiance that I could conversate with anymore. And I no longer had a dog. So my weekends were very depressing because I didn't have a reason.
You didn't have a job that gave you a reason to spend your whole weekend out of the house anymore either.
And like I mostly just stayed on the couch because at the time I could not even think about like sleeping in a bed that was ours. Like that was our bed. And so I just stayed on the couch and I didn't see the outdoors for the weekend. And then I hit the other switch of, yep, that happened to me. This is my life now. At least I'm not divorced. That's all I could tell myself, was at least I'm not 21 and divorced. I'm just 21 and an ex-fiance.
And you know what? Being an ex-fiance is also way more affordable than a divorce.
Yeah, that is true. And
maybe not emotionally, because you're still mourning the fact that you had built a whole life with this person over like 2 whole years. But financially, and you said you love money, so we're going to look for the positives.
And then my mom was starting to get very worried. Because
shout out to Ashley.
I also kept from my parents for like a minute that any of this was going down.
Yeah.
When it started. And I think it was out of like them being disappointed in me, even though like, why is that a possibility right now? But my mom was concerned then. And I mean, she was.
I actually remember your mom coming up to me at a basketball game and asking if you were okay. And I had to be like, I think she's just really tired right now, because I didn't know who knew what. But your mom was worried pretty early. Her mama senses went off pretty early in this experience.
So you had like my mom was asking Kaylee and she was asking Carly, and like then Carly was like, so my mom's bestie is Carly's aunt. There. And she lives down the road from us. And they were actually like doing something for their school. I don't know, something. And so Jessie knew about it. She knew what was going on. And Carly knew what was going on, but my mom did not. And she was like, the 3 of them were confined in a room. And my mom was like, what is going on? I know something is going on.
I forgot about this. I forgot about Carly kind of getting cornered until your business was out on the table.
And so then I finally was like, okay, I should probably tell my mom. I need to tell my parents, like, what the hell is going on? And then that's when they became, like, full protective parents. And they were like, let's go beat him up. And I was like, let's take a step back. Be a little more rational.
Yeah.
And I mean, my sisters, especially my 12-year-old sister, she was like, I'm just gonna go find him and beat him up. I was like, okay, girl, whatever you want.
Honestly, though, if there was a 12-year-old that could have pulled off finding a way to take down a grown man, it would be your sister and her pack of friends. Like, I'm sorry, but that particular group of girls at the school, I am shocked don't run the town by now, to be honest. But they could definitely find a way to take down your ex-fiance.
And like, I mean, after that, like, she's seen him somewhere. I'm not sure where.
No.
Somewhere. And like, messaged me, and she's like, do not come here. He's here. And I was like, one, that is so cryptic. I don't even know what it is. What is it? Who is where? And why shouldn't I be there? Like, and she was just like, I don't know. Did we say his name already?
We haven't. We haven't used any business names or names outside of people that we are still in active friendship relations with.
Okay. So, like, she was like,
we'll call him. What did you just say?
I said blank.
Oh, that's a really great one. Blank is here.
Blank is here. And I was like, okay, like, girl, chill. Put the claws back away. It's fine. Like, yes, I live in a small town. We're going to have to see each other, even though he's not from this small town. He now has made friends in said small Okay. I think I did something.
No, but we can hear you again. You're doing great.
Okay, because I got a phone call. So I was like, even though like this, like he's not from here, he's now made connections. So like, yeah, I'm gonna have to face the fact that I may see him places. Yeah. I was like, that's fine. And so then in February, Carly moved in. And I mean, it was kind of spur of the moment. After I went through like my 4 weekends of just being like depressed.
Carly. And in the midst of all this, I had moved, hadn't I?
Yep. You weren't here.
Very sorry. Didn't mean to add another change to your life. I was going through it too, Haley. Just a different kind.
But Carly moved in here.
Which I think was really good.
I mean, it is now. When we started, I was definitely still in my feelings, and I definitely drank them all.
That did happen, and Carly, I will say, helped.
I mean, Carly and I religiously to the bar.
You were freshly 21 and had just had a ton of major life changes. And I think that leads us to another, as we call them, symptoms of change. And one of those is simply numbing. Like, change brings on so many feelings. And sometimes you don't want to feel any of them, the good, the bad, or the ugly. Mm-hmm. Or you want to try to find a way to just feel the good.
As soon as I'm, like, getting back to where, okay, I can deal with this, I'm at the bar, of course, because this is when I thought I had dealt with it. And someone comes in, and they were like, how PG is this podcast?
I mean, both my moms and my mother-in-law are probably going to listen to it, and you're in my wedding. So you just decide what you're comfortable with your mama and my mama's knowing, okay?
So a gal came into the bar, And as soon as she walked in the door, she'd seen me. And instead of saying skunk, there was an A in there. And, like, yelled it at me. And I was like, confusion. Confusion has taken over. What do you mean? And so I asked her. I was like, why? If I'm going to be called a name, I should at least know why. And so then she told me the lies that she had been told. And I wasn't drunk, but I wasn't sober. In
your heavily buzzed state.
Yes. I pulled out all the receipts in the bar.
That's right. He had tried to say that everything he did to you, you did to him.
Mm-hmm. And that he...
And so you showed half the town your proof.
Yeah.
I don't know, waking up the next day, did that feel cathartic? Or like you would put your own junk on display? Like, did you feel...
One, I hated that everybody knew what was happening in my life. Two, happy that my story was out there to the people that were at least in the bar. But, I mean, it is what it is. I have now, like, come to terms and, like, thought about that relationship and how it just probably wasn't ever going to work, and that in some way we were trauma bonded, and I see that now. And so now I just enjoy life. I mean, I still go to the bar, just not as an alcoholic anymore.
You go to the bar to see people and have a drink. You don't go to the bar 5 out of 7 nights a week to not feel anything.
That is correct. Because, I mean, when I say I went every weekend, I mean, I work Monday through Thursday. So I went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, occasionally on Wednesdays, but I wouldn't get, like, plastered, and occasionally on Sundays, but I wouldn't get plastered.
I actually remember the last 2 weekends I lived in town. Haley had just entered the I feel ready to go out again stage. And I ate pizza 4 nights in a row one time because my body physically could not afford to drink the way Haley was drinking, but she didn't want to be alone. And so I would go and I would order my $8 bar pizza with my hot sauce on it, and have like a gin and club. And I would eat my pizza throughout the whole night. I'd have a slice for one of Haley's drinks, and that's how we spent our evening. Don't get me wrong. There were a couple nights that I had fun with my friend who was getting her fun back, but I definitely couldn't keep up with you.
And now I'm at a place where, like,
if you wanted to go up and just have a pizza and not a drink, you could have a night like that.
Yeah. I mean, on Saturday I went up there and I had 2 drinks. 2. Bought some very drunk people at the bar some food. And I said, you should eat this. And, I mean, like, yeah, I still go out. I still have fun. Just not drinking my sorrows away to where I don't feel anything. And now I've hit the point where
you're drinking to spend time, not to stop time anymore. You don't want to not feel what's going on in the real world.
Yep. And now I've hit the point of, like, I'm happy where I'm at. I mean, I'm striving to do better. I mean, I hope everybody strives to do better, like, all the time. And I strive to do better at my everything. And, I mean, I'm content.
Yeah. So you came out of those seasons of change, and it taught you a lot about not only who is around you, but yourself. And so our two closing questions.
Because, I mean, another thing is that when I went into, before all the change happened, I was there is a schedule. It has to be this way.
I'm listening.
We can just wait.
2 to 5 minutes. There's a schedule. There's...
You'll just
like we talked about at the beginning of this call, you have to know the plan. And if it doesn't go to plan, you're anxious.
So you need to edit that part out where I just blew the smoke all up in your biz.
I will.
But yes, now I have entered the, like, I am content. And when I went into that, I was have to have a plan. If it doesn't go to plan, I get very stressed out. I have now, like, what changed me out of all of that is that life is very much not the picture that's going to be in your head, and that plans do change, and that's okay. And I mean, life is what it is, and you can't change. You just can't change what has happened. Like, you can't change that this has happened to you. You can change how you move forward in your life. And that is what I've done. My whole mindset has changed on this is what happens. This is what happens. I'm not so, I'm still working, obviously, on all of this. I work on, I wanted to leave at 1. It's now 1:30. I apologize that, because at that point, I'm probably not even going to be late, if I'm going to be honest, because my brain...
If something's 15 minutes away, Haley is leaving 45 minutes before.
Oh, just 25.
But it used to be an hour, so we're good.
Yeah. See, I've changed my aspect on life of what is. It is what it is, and that's just what it's gonna be.
Yeah. So we have 2 closing questions for the podcast every week. These I did plan ahead of time. And that is question 1. What were the 3 hardest emotions for you to face, to deal with, to manage during your season of change? And what were the what are 3 beautiful things that came from your season of change?
So my anxiety was very hard to handle. And because I was so anxious, I was very mad. And I not only was mad at myself for being this anxious, but I was also just mad at life and people in general, of why me? And it was also, I didn't do good with the sadness part of it all, because I hate crying, and then that's all I did. So my main one was that I was just so angry at myself, for one. Haley, get over it, is what I just kept telling myself, and that's not realistic.
Not at all.
And then, I was just angry all the time. And then, what was your second question?
3 beautiful things that came from your season of change.
I'm now closer with my family. We were already close, but this brought us together more. And I now have a whole, it really is just, it is what it is. And that's just life. And
So the new mindset, the is what it is mindset, was a blessing to you.
And that, yes, I am only 21, and you need to stop comparing yourself to 40-year-olds because that's what you seem to be doing.
Yeah.
You want everything that a 40-year-old has in life, but you want it by the time that you are 23. That way, by the time that you are 25, that you could be having children. And that's just not realistic. So I became more...
Sounds like you really learned to give yourself grace, along with learning how to go with flow.
I was very strict on myself. And now I'm just like, I might just... What if I just quit my job and go travel the world?
I bet you listened to Homecoming Queen by Kelsey Ballerini very differently since all this happened. Maybe hear yourself in it a little more.
I listened to it today on my way home.
How did I know? Our girl Kelsey. There is one thing that we can thank Blank for. He gave you somebody to scream rolling up the welcome mat about.
Yeah. And I mean, now I just kind of... I mean, in the beginning, I thought about Blank a lot.
Yeah.
Now, not so much.
He's just a season that happened, and we're past that season now because plans change.
Plans change. You find new people to love and cherish, or the old people that you had not announced to you had, like, unfortunately kicked out of your life because you're so just in a trance. Come back, because I mean, Carly and I didn't talk for like 2 years, year and a half. This. And now she lives here with me.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy everything you can gain when you lose something?
Yeah. And I don't know. I learned. And now
you learned, you lived, you love again, and it sounds like pretty in love with the life you got now.
Yep. I'm just doing me all the time.
I like it. Well, Haley, thank you for your vulnerability. One, you literally had to talk about pretty much the worst 3 to 4 month span of your life for an hour. So thank you for that.
I will say that I am afraid that they will watch this and think too much into this, when in reality, I don't care anymore. And the drama that you have built up inside your head is just you.
Yeah, there's a whole... You can create whatever narrative around this episode you want. But you, this was just the get it all out there part of your narrative. And other than that, you're kind of done with it. This was your get it all out there moment.
I got a phone call. Hold on. Okay. But yeah, I mean, if you want to say that we have beef, go for it. But right now, I have no beef with no one.
Considering the fact that this is the first time I've heard you talk about Blank in probably 6 months.
Getting phone calls.
It's all good. Well, it sounds like other people need your attention.
But, yeah, that was the chapter of 23. You were just a part of my chapter 23. 22. What year is it?
It is 23. So that was your winter 22-23 chapter.
And that was that. Wish you the best.
And
Wish
as
you
they
all the
say,
best.
the rest is history. Yeah.
If you want to know more about my interesting life, have Kaylee bring me back.
Yeah, I probably will. I feel like there's, it would be really interesting to interview your family as a whole about the big family change you guys went through with the house someday. But for now, I love you. I'm thankful for you. Thank you for your vulnerability. And thank you for being willing to let plans change.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.